Hello friends, in today's lecture I am going to discuss the law of diminishing marginal utility. What does this law state? This law simply states that more of a commodity you are going to use, the less utility you are going to get from it. Okay, so I will explain this with the help of the example. Here you can clearly see that the number of units of a commodity, in this case oranges, is increasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are taking exactly same number of units, means there is a difference of one unit only. Okay, and with that total utility in this column is increasing, and then marginal utility that we get from the total utility. First of all, I'll just explain how we get the marginal utility. Simply, the marginal utility at unit 1 will be the total utility at unit 1 minus the total utility at unit 0, which is 0. So, 12 minus 0 remains 12. So, the marginal utility will be equal to the total utility at first unit. When we consume second unit of the same commodity, we get 20 unit utils of total utility. So, here the marginal utility is 20 minus 12, means TUN minus TUN minus 1, means the total utility at this level and then the total utility at preceding level. So, 20 minus 12 we get 8. So, the marginal utility for 2 units of consumption of orange is 8. So, likewise we have 6, 4, 0 and minus 2. These are the marginal utilities. The table itself shows that the marginal utility is getting diminished. So, this law states the same thing, that the marginal utility diminishes. Now, the law says that with each and every successive increase in the quantity consumed, the marginal utility will keep on decreasing. From 1 to 2, the marginal utility is 8. From 2 to 3, the marginal utility is 6. From 3 to 4, the marginal utility is 4. So, we can see that marginal utility is diminishing or decreasing. Okay. Now, why this happens actually? So, I will just give you a very simple example, that when we are hungry, we go and we take our meal, we start to eat. Okay. So, initially when we start eating our food, so the satisfaction level that we get from the initial bites or the initial morsel will be the highest, maximum. Okay, so that gives the highest utility. But with each successive bites of the food that we are consuming, our hunger, the feeling of hunger or the hunger is getting satisfied. Okay, that is why a point comes when we are no more feeling hungry, and that means that our total utility has been maximized. Okay, so let us take the example given here. At 4th unit of orange or 4th unit of the food that you are eating, your hunger is totally satisfied, and at that time your total utility has reached to 30. Now, after that you are not feeling any more hungry. Still, if you consume another bite, you will still get the same kind of utility, means there is no addition in your utility. At the 4th level only you have maximized your utility. At the 5th bite, there is no more utility that it is giving you, and that is why at this point marginal utility becomes 0, means the successive unit from 4th to 5th does not give you any marginal utility. Why? Because your hunger has been totally satisfied at the 4th level only, and you have maximized your utility at this level only. Now, if you are forced to eat any more of that food, what happens? Commonly we become frustrated sometimes, because when our hunger is totally satisfied, we are not eating, we are no longer feeling hunger, and we are totally done. So, it even sometimes irritates. So, you are in fact getting dissatisfied instead of getting satisfaction. So, your utility is diminishing in this case. Okay. And that is why marginal utility becomes negative, because it is a simple maths. From total utility of 30, successive unit of 6th unit, you get 28 total utility. So 28 minus 30 will give you negative figure of minus 2, and this is the common sense thing, and this is what the law of diminishing marginal utility simply puts into word, that with each successive unit of a commodity or a service that we consume, our total utility increases, and then it reaches the maximum, then it becomes constant, and then total utility starts to fall. That is why if we look at the marginal utility always keeps on getting lower and lower and lower. At every point it is getting lower. So the first unit, the marginal utility of the first unit will be the highest, and the marginal utility of every successive units will keep on diminishing. So this is the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now there are some assumptions that it should be quantifiable. Of course, only then we can mathematically put it here, that we are able to put a number to the utility. Then the consumer, if it is a case of consumer good, then the unit should be standard, means it should, the difference between 1 and 2 should be equal, 2 and 3 should be equal. You cannot say that 1 dozen and then 2 packets. You cannot compare different kinds of categories. Okay, it should be standard. 1 and 2 should be equal. I mean, each unit should signify similar and same kind of weight or the quantity. Then consumption must be continuous. Okay, it is only hold true when we are talking about consumption at one point of time or in a continuous motion, and then the consumer taste and preference should also remain same. Now the calculation is very simple. The formula is also given here. The change in the total quantity divided by change in total utility divided by the change in quantity will give you the marginal utility. The graph here is different, quite unique. You can see that the total utility curve it does not start from 0, because it cannot be 0. Of course, whenever we are eating or consuming something, then it will give us some utility. So whenever there is some utility, it has to be above 0. In this case, it is 12. So total utility, you can see it goes up, it keeps on going up. Like I said, then a point reaches when it becomes constant, and then it starts to fall down. Okay, from 30, 28. So this is how the total utility curve will be, like going up and then reaches the maximum and then starts to fall down. Now the marginal utility is always sloping downwards. Why sloping downwards? Because yes, it is diminishing in nature, so it will be inverse. Okay, with each successive, the more quantity, lesser it is going. Okay, so the marginal utility starts at the point where the total utility starts. So both starts at the same point. Here it is 12, and then it straight goes downward, and this is the marginal utility curve is one curve which also becomes negative. So it will touch the x is at this point 0, and then it will become negative. So this is the marginal utility curve, and this is the shape of the total utility curve. This is the law of diminishing marginal utility. In the previous lecture, I discussed the total utility and marginal utility concepts, and this is the second lecture in this series of individual demand, and hope this is clear. Thank you.